Last Tuesday, something happened that broke me. I was getting ready for my daughter's wedding rehearsal dinner. I had bought this beautiful navy dress, size 14, 2 sizes up from what I wore just 3 years ago. I put it on, looked in the mirror, and I didn't recognize the woman staring back at me. My face was rounder, my arms looked like they belonged to someone else. And that belly, where did that come from? I started crying right there in my bedroom. My husband knocked on the door. "Honey, we're going to be late." And I couldn't even answer him, because how do you explain that you feel like a stranger in your own body? For months, I had been doing everything right, cutting calories, walking every morning, drinking green smoothies, but the scale kept creeping up, pound by pound, like my body was betraying me. I'm 54 years old. I've run businesses. I've raised 3 kids. I've handled everything life has thrown at me. But this felt impossible. That night, after the rehearsal dinner, I couldn't sleep. So I started researching, and what I discovered changed everything. It turns out everything I knew about losing weight was wrong, at least for women going through menopause. The rules had changed, but nobody gave me the new playbook. What I learned in the weeks that followed didn't just help me fit into my old clothes again. It gave me back something I thought I'd lost forever, myself. If you've ever felt invisible in your own reflection, I need you to watch what comes next, because you're not broken, you're not lazy, and it's not too late. Your body just needs something different now, and I'm going to show you exactly what that is.
If you've been trying to lose belly fat during menopause and nothing seems to work, I need you to hear this. You're not broken. You're not lazy. And you definitely don't lack willpower. What's happening inside your body right now is something completely different from what happened in your 30s or even your early 40s. And fasting, the thing everyone's talking about, might actually be making things worse if you're doing it wrong. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how to fast during menopause in a way that works with your changing hormones, not against them. I'll explain the science in simple terms, share the mistakes that actually increase belly fat, and give you a step-by-step approach that has transformed how thousands of women in our community approach weight loss after 50. But first, let me be real with you about something. When I hit 48, I thought I knew everything about health. I was a nurse for over 20 years. I had helped hundreds of patients, and yet, when my own metabolism seemed to shut off overnight, I was completely lost. I tried intermittent fasting because everyone said it was the answer. I did 16/8. I did 24-hour fasts. I even tried a 3-day water fast because some article said it would reset my metabolism. Do you know what happened? I gained weight. Not just a little. 7 pounds in 6 weeks. And that stubborn belly fat that appeared out of nowhere? It got worse. I remember standing in my bathroom at 2 in the morning, unable to sleep, staring at myself in the mirror and wondering what was wrong with me. My husband was worried. My energy was gone. And I felt like my body had completely betrayed me. Sound familiar? If you've been there, if you're there right now, I want you to know something. That moment of frustration and confusion was actually the beginning of everything changing for me, because that's when I stopped following generic advice and started digging into the actual science of what happens to a woman's body during and after menopause. Here's what I discovered, and this is the part that changed everything for me. Before menopause, your body has a relatively predictable response to fasting. When you don't eat for a while, insulin drops, glucagon rises, and your body starts burning stored fat for fuel. It's a beautiful, efficient system that helped our ancestors survive periods without food. But during and after menopause, something fundamental shifts. Your estrogen levels decline significantly. And estrogen, as it turns out, plays a massive role in how your body responds to fasting. Research published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology shows that postmenopausal women have a 32% reduced fat oxidation rate compared to premenopausal women during fasting states. 32%. That means even when you're doing everything right, your body is burning fat at roughly a third less efficiency than it used to. But that's not even the most important part. When estrogen drops, your body becomes more sensitive to cortisol, the stress hormone. And here's where standard fasting advice becomes dangerous for women in menopause. Long fasts, the kind that work great for men and younger women, trigger a cortisol spike in postmenopausal women that can be up to 40% higher than normal. And cortisol, elevated cortisol, specifically signals your body to store fat. Where? Right in your belly. It's called visceral fat. And it's not just about how your clothes fit. This type of fat is metabolically active and linked to increased inflammation, insulin resistance, and a whole cascade of health issues. So when you're fasting the wrong way, you're actually telling your body to hold on to belly fat more tightly. You're working against yourself without even knowing it. This is why so many women I talk to say the same thing. They're eating less than ever, they're fasting longer than ever, and they're gaining weight. It's not in your head, it's in your hormones. Now, here's the obstacle most women face, even when they learn all this. Even when they understand that their body has changed, they still struggle to lose weight. Because there's another factor at play. After menopause, your body develops what researchers call thermogenic resistance. Think of it like a dimmer switch on your metabolism that's been turned way down. Your body's ability to generate heat from burning calories, especially from fat, is significantly reduced. This is partly why so many women experience that frustrating plateau, where no matter how perfectly they eat or how consistently they fast, the scale won't budge and that belly fat stays put. That's exactly why many women in our community have started using a specific Japanese-inspired compound that targets this thermogenic resistance directly. It contains concentrated Seville orange peel, ceremonial green tea, and Himalayan ginger in therapeutic doses that work at the cellular level. What makes it different from random supplements is that it specifically addresses that dimmer switch. It helps turn your thermogenic response back up, so when you do fast correctly, your body actually burns the fat instead of holding on to it. Many women have told me it was the missing piece that finally made fasting work for them. I'll leave a link in the pinned comment if you want to learn more about exactly how it works. But regardless of whether you try it or not, let me show you exactly how to fast in a way that works with your menopausal body, because this information alone can transform your results. The first principle is what I call the menopause fasting window. Forget what the internet tells you about 16 hours or 20 hours of fasting. For women in menopause, shorter fasting windows with strategic timing work significantly better. The sweet spot I've found, and that research supports, is a 12 to 14 hour overnight fast. Yes, I said 12 to 14 hours, not 16 or 18. Here's why this matters so much. When you fast for shorter periods, you still get the benefits of lowered insulin and increased fat mobilization. But you avoid that cortisol spike that happens with longer fasts. You're working with your hormonal system instead of triggering its defense mechanisms. The timing matters enormously. Your last meal should be finished at least 3 hours before bed. So, if you go to sleep at 10, you finish eating by 7. Then you sleep for 7 or 8 hours, which is another form of fasting. And you break your fast in the morning with a specific type of meal that I'll tell you about in a moment. This approach has been studied specifically in postmenopausal women. A study from the University of California found that women who followed this modified fasting pattern lost 73% more belly fat than women doing traditional 16-hour fasts over a 12-week period. 73% more results from a shorter, more manageable fasting window. That's the power of working with your hormones instead of against them. The second principle is what I call protein timing. This is something almost nobody talks about, but it's absolutely critical for menopause fasting. When you break your fast, the first thing you eat sets the hormonal tone for your entire day. Most fasting advice tells you to break your fast with fruit or something light. For women in menopause, this is exactly wrong. You need to break your fast with protein, and not just a little protein. Aim for at least 25 to 30 grams in your first meal. This could be eggs, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, fish, or a quality protein shake. Here's the science. Protein triggers a hormone called glucagon-like peptide 1, or GLP-1. This hormone helps regulate blood sugar, reduces appetite, and most importantly for us, helps prevent that cortisol spike that causes belly fat storage. When you break your fast with carbs or fruit, you get a blood sugar spike followed by a crash. That crash triggers cortisol. Cortisol triggers fat storage. And the cycle continues. I learned this the hard way. When I first started adjusting my fasting approach, I was still breaking my fast with overnight oats and fruit because that's what all the wellness influencers were doing. My results were mediocre. When I switched to breaking my fast with eggs and vegetables, everything changed within 2 weeks. The third principle is strategic eating windows. This builds on everything we've discussed. During your eating window, which should be about 10 to 12 hours, you want to front-load your calories. This means eating your largest meal at breakfast or lunch, not dinner. I know this goes against how most of us live, but the science here is clear. Your body's insulin sensitivity is highest in the morning and decreases throughout the day. Research from Tel Aviv University showed that women who ate their largest meal at breakfast lost 2.5 times more weight than women who ate the same calories but had their largest meal at dinner. 2.5 times more weight loss from the same number of calories just by changing when you eat them. For practical application, here's what a day might look like. You finish dinner at 7 in the evening, you sleep, you wake up and break your fast around 8 or 9 in the morning with a protein-rich breakfast. Your lunch is substantial. Your dinner is your smallest meal of the day, and you stop eating by 7. The fourth principle is movement timing, and this one is going to surprise you. Most fitness advice tells you to exercise in a fasted state to maximize fat burning. For men and younger women, this can work well. For women in menopause, it can actually backfire. Fasted exercise, especially intense fasted exercise, can spike your cortisol levels even higher than the fasting alone. Remember, your body is already more sensitive to cortisol because of lower estrogen. Adding the stress of intense exercise on an empty stomach can push your cortisol through the roof. Instead, here's what works better. Do your movement after eating, not before. A 20 to 30 minute walk after your breakfast or lunch is far more effective for belly fat loss than an intense fasted workout. Why? Because the light movement after eating helps shuttle glucose into your muscles instead of being stored as fat. It keeps insulin levels stable. And it doesn't trigger that cortisol response that works against your goals. I remember when I first heard this, I was skeptical. I had been forcing myself to do early morning workouts on an empty stomach for years. When I switched to a gentle walk after breakfast instead, I actually saw more changes in my waistline in 1 month than I had in the previous 6 months of intense fasted workouts. The fifth principle is what I call the weekly reset. This is important because consistency matters, but so does flexibility. 1 day per week, I recommend extending your fast slightly longer to about 16 hours. This gives you some of the deeper cellular benefits of fasting, like increased autophagy, which is your body's cleanup process, without the daily cortisol stress. Pick a day that works for you. For many women, this is Monday, starting fresh after a weekend. You simply delay your breakfast by a few hours, making sure to stay well hydrated with water, herbal tea, or black coffee. This weekly longer fast seems to be the sweet spot. It's enough to trigger additional benefits without the daily stress that comes from chronic extended fasting. The sixth principle is hydration timing. This sounds simple, but most women get it wrong. During your fasting window, you need to drink significantly more water than you might think. Aim for at least half your body weight in ounces. So if you weigh 160 pounds, that's 80 ounces of water during your fasting period. But here's the key. Front-load it. Drink most of your water during the fasting period, especially in the morning. This helps flush cortisol metabolites from your system and keeps your metabolism active even while you're not eating. Add a pinch of high-quality salt to your water, especially in the morning. During menopause, your body doesn't hold onto sodium as well as it used to. A little salt helps you actually absorb and use the water you're drinking instead of it just passing right through. Now let me share some mistakes I see women making all the time, because avoiding these is just as important as following the right approach. The first common mistake is fasting too long, too often. I see women trying to fast for 18, 20, even 24 hours every single day. For menopausal women, this is a recipe for metabolic disaster. It keeps cortisol chronically elevated, and your body goes into conservation mode, holding on to every bit of fat it can. The second mistake is not eating enough during eating windows. Some women fast correctly, but then eat like birds when they do eat. If you're eating under 1,200 calories, your body thinks you're starving. It slows your metabolism even further. You need to eat enough to signal to your body that it's safe to release stored fat. The third mistake is ignoring sleep. This might seem unrelated to fasting, but it's absolutely critical. Poor sleep increases cortisol and decreases growth hormone. Growth hormone is one of the key players in fat burning. If you're not sleeping 7 to 8 hours, your fasting efforts are severely compromised. When I was struggling the most with my weight, I was also sleeping poorly because of hot flashes and night sweats. When I addressed my sleep, using some simple techniques I'll share in another video, my weight loss finally became consistent. The fourth mistake is too much intense exercise. I mentioned this earlier, but it bears repeating. Women in menopause do better with moderate, consistent movement than with intense workouts. Walking, swimming, gentle cycling, yoga. These support your hormonal balance. Intense HIIT workouts and heavy cardio can work against you by spiking cortisol. Let me tell you about my friend Karen. She's 62, and she had been struggling with the same 30 pounds for almost a decade. She was doing everything the fitness industry told her to do. Long fasts, intense workouts, strict calorie counting. When she switched to this approach, the shorter fasting windows, protein-first breakfasts, walking instead of intense cardio, she lost 14 pounds in the first 2 months. But more importantly, she told me she finally felt like herself again. She had energy. She was sleeping better. And she wasn't constantly obsessing about food. That's what this approach does. It works with your body so you can stop fighting against it. Now, I want to be completely honest with you about something important. For many women, especially those dealing with significant thermogenic resistance, these lifestyle changes alone can take months to show substantial results. The strategies I've shared today are powerful and proven. But the reality is that your body might need additional support to break through that metabolic resistance. That's why I mentioned earlier that Japanese-inspired compound. Many women in our community use it alongside these fasting strategies to accelerate their results. It specifically targets that dimmer switch on your metabolism that makes everything harder after menopause. If you're curious about how it works, I'll leave a link in the pinned comment. It's not for everyone, and you absolutely can see results with just the strategies I've shared today. But for those who want extra support, especially if you've been stuck for a while, it's worth looking into. Let me give you a simple action plan to start with this week. Day 1 and 2. Simply become aware of your current eating window. Note what time you finish eating at night and what time you first eat in the morning. Don't change anything yet. Just observe. Day 3 through 5, start narrowing your eating window to 12 to 14 hours overnight. Finish dinner a little earlier if needed. Focus on breaking your fast with protein. Day 6 and 7, add a 20 to 30 minute walk after your largest meal. Notice how you feel. Week 2, start front-loading your calories. Make breakfast or lunch your largest meal. Continue with the walks. By week 3, consider adding the weekly 16-hour reset on a day that works for you. This gradual approach works better than trying to change everything at once. Remember, we're trying to avoid stressing your body. Gradual changes signal safety. Dramatic changes signal stress. I know this is a lot of information, but if you take nothing else from today, remember this. Your body after menopause plays by different rules. The fasting approaches that work for everyone else can actually work against you. Shorter fasts, protein-first eating, gentle movement, and strategic timing are your new tools. You're not broken. Your body hasn't betrayed you. It's just speaking a different language now, and today, you started learning how to understand it. I'd love to hear from you. Have you tried fasting during menopause? What has your experience been? Drop a comment below and let me know. I read every single comment, and your experience might help another woman who's struggling with the same challenges. If this information helped you, please consider subscribing. I share new research and practical strategies every week specifically for women navigating menopause weight changes. In my next video, I'm going to share the specific foods that can either help or hurt your fasting results, including some surprising ones that most people think are healthy, but actually trigger that cortisol response we've been talking about. Your best years aren't behind you. They're just different, and with the right information, they can be even better than what came before. Thank you for being here with me today. I'll see you in the next one.